Hello, my name is Kelly Hawk, and this is my final project for Informatics 645. Instructor is Dr. Vikraman Bhaskaran and Cherie Ross. Scenario background. At 5:30 p.m., Dr. X, a psychiatrist, arrives at the skilled nursing facility to evaluate his patient recently discharged from the hospital's psychiatric unit to the skilled nursing facility. The hospital and skilled nurses facility are separate entities and do not share electronic record systems. At the time of the patient's transfer, the discharge summary and other pertinent records and forms were electronically transmitted to the skilled nursing home. When Dr. X enters the facility, he seeks assistance locating his patient, gaining entrance to the locked psychiatric unit, and accessing the patient's electronic health record to review the discharge summary, INO, MAR, and progress notes. Dr. X was able to enter the unit by showing a picture identification badge, but was not able to access the EHR. As it is Dr. X's first visit, he has no login or password to use their system. Dr. X completes his visit and prepares to complete his documentation for the nursing home. Unable to access the skilled nursing facility EHR, Dr. X dictates his initial assessment via telephone to his outsourced offshore transcription service. The assessment is transcribed and posted to a secure web portal. The next morning from his home computer, Dr. X checks his email and receives notification that the assessment is available. Dr. X logs into his office web portal, reviews the assessment, and applies his electronic signature. Later that day, Dr. X's office manager downloads the assessment from the web portal, saves the document in the patient's record in his office, and forwards the now encrypted document to the long-term care facility via email. The skilled nursing facility notifies Dr. X's office that they are unable to open the encrypted document because they do not have the encryption key. The risk mitigation plan for this scenario will consist of risk and consequences, risk probability, risk impact, risk priority, and mitigation response. Risk and consequences. In the case of Dr. X, though his intentions were to give quality care, he performed many risks that can transpire into many different outcomes. As mentioned, Dr. X's patient was recently discharged from the hospital psychiatric unit to the skilled nursing facility. The hospital and skilled nursing facility are separate entities and do not share electronic record systems. At the time of the patient's transfer, the discharge summary and other patient records and forms were electronically transmitted to the skilled nursing home. An aspect that was not mentioned in the scenario was if the patient was given a medical release form agreeing to have their information sent electronically. Another risk, Dr. X was able to enter the facility with assistance from the staff, gaining entrance to the locked psychiatric unit and accessing the patient's electronic health record to review the discharge summary, just by showing a picture identification badge. Dr. X should not have been allowed this amount of access just by showing ID. This means a staff member had to give Dr. X access to their username and password to access the files since it was his first time coming to the facility. Due to the fact that Dr. X was unable to access the facility's EHR, he completed his visit and documentation for the nursing facility at home. Unable to access the skilled nursing facility, Dr. X dictates his initial assessment via telephone to his outsourced offshore transcription service. The assessment is transcribed and posted to a secure web portal. This is considered a HIPAA violation due to the transcribe being outsourced and offshore. Dr. X then checked his emails from his computer the next day. The scenario did not state if his computer had a dual verification to confirm him accessing his computer. He then logs into his office web portal, reviews the assessment, and applies his electronic signature. His manager then downloads the assessment from the web portal, saves the document in the patient's record, and forwards the now encrypted document to the long-term care facility via email. It concerned me how the manager assumed that the outside source was actually Dr. X that emailed him the patient information. Risk probability and risk impact. Risk is defined in two dimensions: the uncertainty dimension and the effect dimension. Proper assessment of risk requires appropriate assessments of both probability and impact. The effect on objectives is relatively simple to estimate, as it involves a simple exercise in imagining the situation where the risk happens. Assessing probability of occurrence is less straightforward. Proper assessment of risk probability is, however, critical to the effectiveness of the risk process. If risk probability assessment is faulty, the accuracy of risk prioritization will be affected, leading to a potential failure to the focus on the most significant risk. This in turn could lead to selection of inappropriate responses, with attention being paid to wrongly prioritized risks, such as with Dr. X in the facility allowing complete access just by him showing his badge. The staff allowed immediate access to the facility. In order to access these accounts, an employee gave Dr. X their access information and trusted that he would use it accordingly. If Dr. X chose to do any negligent behavior that day, that staff member would be terminated at full cause for allowing him complete access to their system. Inappropriate response selection results in failure to manage risk effectively, with the possibility of loss of confidence in the risk process. Conversely, if assessment of risk probability is sound, then the resulting understanding of each assessed risk will be more accurate, supporting better decisions in terms of response selection and risk management strategy. The improvement in risk management effectiveness that follows will enhance the credibility of the risk process and will ultimately lead to more reliable achievement of project and business objectives. In order to ensure the most robust assessment of risk probability, a two-part solution is recommended. The first part requires awareness of the issues, including understanding the problems associated with assessing probability, the effect of psychological influences, the importance of reliable probability assessment, and the various alternative approaches available. This must be accompanied by action to address the concerns by identifying and managing sources of bias, modifying practice by using different probability assessment techniques, monitoring subsequent project and risk management performance to determine the accuracy of assessed risk probability, and learning lessons to further improve the effectiveness of the probability assessment process. Risk priority and risk mitigation. A big mistake in risk management is underestimating the importance of standardized risk prioritization. Diving into identification and assessments without a sufficient framework inhibits prioritization. This can result in ineffective risk mitigation and duplicate work across departments, or even serious risks flying under the radar. The possibility of missing a serious risk can be disturbing, but it is impossible to pinpoint everyone. Dr. X was more focused on making sure his patient was treated timely and efficiently, ignoring the what ifs from his actions. Dr. X violated many HIPAA laws, and his negligence could have resulted in maybe a revoke of his license or even shutting down his entire facility. Sometimes natural human behavior gets in the way, and the only focus is getting the task at hand done. This is why thinking about risk versus uncertainty is important. They are closely related, but are not one and the same. Uncertainty has a broader scope. It is a lack of knowledge about a particular event's outcome and exists for every individual and every organization. Part of a risk manager's job is to evaluate these uncertainties and determine which ones are likely enough and could have a serious enough impact to warrant mitigation. When an uncertainty reaches a particular threshold of likelihood and impact, the company recognizes it as a risk that needs to be mitigated. The key is implementing a level of granularity that makes sense for the organization and that assists with prioritization.